Welcome, everyone, to the Sonoma Spiel. My name is Tim with the Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau. We are in the middle of harvest. If you've been listening, we've been talking about it. The grape trucks are on the roads. It's gorgeous, gorgeous. A little warm out here right now, and the grapes are just getting set up. And, you know, the harvest will be running for a couple weeks. And it's this kind of manic, crazed period here in Sonoma Valley. And everyone's excited, and everyone's doing something. Everyone's running around. And it's for this reason I decided to bring a very special guest in. Now, I know I say every week I have a very special guest. This time I actually mean it. This person is from a winery at the northern part of Sonoma Valley. They do great things, and they've even been listed as one of the top restaurants in Sonoma Valley. We're going to hear more about that. It's Ryan Budlong with St. Francis Winery. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm well, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
As I mentioned to you, I kind of drew the short straw since it is harvest. Winemakers are busy. Vineyard management was busy.
Right.
Everybody was busy except marketing.
Except the marketing
guy. Not really
guy.
True.
They're like, what's he just doing? TikTok videos in the vineyard? Send that guy out.
Yeah, everybody's thinking harvest. My brain's already in the holidays, but I won't spoil any of that.
Right. No, thank you for that, by the way, because I always tell people, as you know, I always send out my email to all the wineries saying Merry Christmas in July.
Yeah.
And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, hey, I got to think ahead. You guys are only thinking, you know, to the next bottling or whatever.
Christmas follows me throughout the year.
It's
a special time.
It's the ghost of Christmas future.
Exactly.
But, hey, Ryan, you've got a cuddly friend with you. Those watching on YouTube, who's this?
I brought my Bairn. This is Bernie. He's our family dog. He's a rescue.
Oh, nice.
He came to, goes with me everywhere. He goes with me to work every day.
Oh,
the
great.
winery is super open to being dog friendly.
Right.
Winemakers have dogs there. The vineyard director has his dogs there. Our CFO brings his dog to work, as well as many of the other staff. Bernie goes with me quite often into the office, and he is a rescue himself, so he's going to be helping me represent one of our events that we're doing in October.
Perfect.
The Blessing of the Animals. So.
Which I love, hence St. Francis. So, but before we get into that, tell me, where is St. Francis Winery for people who have never been there before? What is it?
We are on Pythian Road, right at, like you said, the north side of the Sonoma Valley, right on Highway 12 as you're heading towards Kenwood from Santa Rosa and out of Kenwood coming from the Sonoma side.
Right.
Can't miss us. We have that beautiful mission-style architecture and 131 acres of vineyard in that location. We actually own 3 other estate vineyards off property, but we have the majestic Hood Mountain right behind us, kind of casting a beautiful little shadow across our vineyards when the sun sets in the evening.
Right.
But we have been there for almost a little over 50 years now.
Oh, wow.
We were founded by our founder in 1971. Our first vineyard was planted at Beeler, which is about half mile up the road towards Kenwood. And we planted Merlot and Chardonnay initially back in those early days, and
when
now
we're all doing Merlot.
Now we produce all kinds of varietals.
Oh, really?
I think at this point we have 17 different varietals planted on our Wild Oak vineyard, which we lovingly refer to as our spice rack. And then we also have, like I said, 3 other estate vineyards up in Russian River Valley. Actually, 2 in Russian River Valley, and then the other in Sonoma Valley, where we cultivate our fruit from, as well as other grower partners throughout the region.
Got it. What I do love is you guys have this beautiful back lawn that looks out over the mountain, as you mentioned, and it's just such a lovely place to introduce people to not just Sonoma Valley, but winemaking itself. Because as part of the experience, people can see the vineyards are right there at the edge of that lawn. And there's even a part of it where you can kind of like, you're invited to walk into the vineyard and discover more about it. Can you tell me about that? I think
so we have our Vineyard Adventure, which is actually a complimentary experience. And it's a great introduction to the property. And as you mentioned, kind of gives them behind the scenes perspective of what goes into, especially the viticultural aspects. We are, as many know, 100% certified sustainable. The Vineyard Adventure Tour gives a lot more insight into what that means. It allows guests to enjoy a glass of wine while they walk through the vineyards where that wine was cultivated from.
I love that.
Walking right up to each of the plants throughout the season, you can see the transition from our dormant vines to bud break all the way to where we are right now with big hanging clusters just kind of decorating across the vineyards.
You guys put those out there, right?
We put those out there.
Just their decorations?
It takes a lot of time.
The marketing wire.
Exactly. Little twists, little green hooks.
Happens right there. No, and that's exactly it. It's like the chance to get right into the vineyard. What I also love is that there's little signs that explain what's happening there with the season, or kind of an explanation, or maybe you pick up a flyer. But I know that like you can say, oh, we're doing pruning now in the winter, and oh, it's bud break, or this is a wind machine that helps with frost, and it's a great way. I often, when people come to the visitor center and they say, where should we start? I'm like, just go right up Valley, start by St. Francis, work your way back. And I said, do that vineyard walk, because you take a little adventure, right? And it really explains what we do here. So it sets the frame for the rest of their stay. So that's an awesome thing.
And as you've called out before, we have that beautiful "Welcome to Sonoma Valley" sign right in
What?
front of the vineyard there, so people can step out and get their photo op.
That's right.
We also offer a unique, as you know, the trolley ride,
Oh,
or
right.
Tour de St. Francis.
Tell us about the Tour de St. Francis.
So Tour de St. Francis is not the complimentary tour, but actually much more in depth. We take you up to the winery as well. It's a pedal trolley, fully sustainable electric pedal trolley, where you don't have to pedal. If you'd rather drink wine while you do the tour, you can do that, or you can do both. Or you can do both.
And how many people are on this trolley pedaling or not pedaling?
You can seat up to 15 people. So we can get a good crowd up there. We tend to have some lively music playing, going from destination to destination throughout the vineyard, making sure we stop at those photo ops, stop at those educational depots.
And they're steering, so like you have a tour guide that knows where to go.
Exactly.
You're not just randomly cutting across.
You're not getting lost in
vineyards.
the vineyard. You're not one of those few people we have to send the helicopters in for. So
Here comes Henry One.
Yeah.
It's going to go rescue them. I love seeing that thing out, and I do love it when I drive by and I see him by the sign.
and it's really fun little outing.
You guys were great to give us the little easement on the land there to put up the "Welcome to Sonoma Valley" sign. 'Cause I do see a lot of people stopping there to take a photo, and on the way out it says "Thank you for visiting Sonoma Valley," and that's a really nice way to see it. St. Francis. Let's segue into this. Your name, St. Francis Winery. For those that don't know, St. Francis is a Catholic saint who was kind of seen as the patron saint of animals.
Correct.
Hence, you've got a rescue dog right there. Do you guys have any things you do with animals or anything that brings them onto the property other than bringing them to work?
We have quite a few things, actually. Well, we are dog friendly, so even guests can bring their dog, especially for tastings. We host a outdoor seated dining experience called the Estate Pairing, which is kind of a farm-to-table tapas-style experience. Great little experience for a drop-in lunch. Always we recommend making reservations, but it is a beautiful, accommodating space out on our vineyard portico, and guests are welcome to bring their dogs to that experience.
And you're kind of sleeping on that because that's an award-winning experience, isn't it? The Estate Pairing?
Well, the wine and food pairing is the one you referenced before that has gained us the award-winning notoriety of being best restaurant in the nation.
On Open Table, the best restaurant in the nation is at a winery. And it's a food and wine pairing.
And that's back from 2015, that award. We recently, this year, were voted Best Winery and Best Tasting Room by SFGate readers.
Oh, great.
By the SFGate Best at the Bay Awards.
Okay.
Only business, I might add, that won 2 categories.
Oh, wow.
And we were runners-up for Best Fine Dining. In the Bay Area as well. We were up against Chez Panisse and French Laundry and a couple others
legit Michelin star restaurants.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you're not legit Michelin star level quality at all, but you're a winery. Like your main focus is magical transformation of grapes into wine. Mm-hmm. Huh. That's pretty cool.
But as we all know, wine can enhance food and food can enhance wine, and we have a beautiful little symbiotic setup where people can visit and experience a couple different culinary experiences that really engage them and show them the versatility of wine.
Right. And you guys even have that culinary garden right there where the chef, and the team there draws from. So that's an amazing garden, by the way. Thanks. I'm actually mad at you guys for that garden because when my wife sees it, she goes, how come our garden doesn't look like that?
Well, I have to correct you because it's our culinary farm.
It's our farm.
We changed it. We changed it to farm recently. The reason being
is
because the variety of things that we started planting.
Right.
We started putting fruit trees in and some other things. It became a little bit more than just your common garden. It wasn't a culinary garden anymore. It was really truly becoming a culinary.
So now my defense is, I used to say, well, we don't have a professional gardener at home. We just have me. But now I can say we don't have a professional farmer. Or permaculture agronomist or whatever.
Although if you've gotten your hands dirty, you're a farmer, right?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. I've been applying for government subsidies because I grew 3 tomatoes and I failed. So now I get more money. No. So go back to the animals. I think you guys do like a blessing of the animals or something like that.
We do. Actually, I was going to segue into that because there's a bunch of different things we do with animals. Other than allowing guests to bring their animals onto the property, we actually have had a long-running partnership with Canine Companions that we actually support throughout the year. With Canine Companions, we have worked with our national trade distribution partners at Co-Brand to build a relationship with Canine Companions, which are based here in Sonoma County,
Right.
Where they actually provide service dogs for those in need. And for every bottle purchase of St. Francis wine, we donate $1 up to $100,000 a year to that organization.
That's great.
So that's something we do throughout the year. But to what you're alluding to, the Blessing of the Animals, which happens the first Sunday of October every year, and the reason it happens that first Sunday of October is because it is St. Francis's feast day.
The Feast of St. Francis.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
So it aligns with that. But the Blessing of the Animals is an event we've hosted since 2000 rather.
Okay.
It's our 22nd. I wish I could say annual, but we all took a little hiatus,
Yeah,
as you know.
so things happen.
So we're at our 22nd Blessing of the Animals, and what the event does is it actually helps raise money for the Humane Society of Sonoma County and some of our other key animal-focused rescues and charities here in Sonoma County.
Were the founders of the winery particularly animal focused, or was this always been a part of the winery, or how did this happen?
Joe Martin, who was our founder, actually, he founded the winery back in 1971, as I mentioned, when he planted Beeler. He was just enamored with the beauty and the nature of Sonoma Valley. He was coming up from San Francisco. He had been in the furniture business prior before deciding to switch careers and become a farmer himself.
Okay.
So he started with cultivating some vines before he started making wine with our first winemaker, Tom Mackey, who sadly just recently passed. He will be missed. But with the purchase of his property, he decided to not only name it in honor of St. Francis and his dedication to nature, but also as an homage to those first grapes planted down here, Mission Solano.
There you go.
By Franciscan monks back in the day. So there's a correlation in the name in many different directions.
And we're now on the 200th anniversary of the wine grapes being planted here with the Mission, which we're celebrating for 3 years. With the Sonoma Valley Vintners and Growers. This is the year of the farmer. So we're celebrating those people who first put those grapes in the ground. Next year is the year of the vintner, those who make it into wine. And the third year is the year of community, those of us who get to celebrate it. That's you and I, on the marketing side.
Celebrating isn't like the bottle that I brought that we don't have cups to drink.
But you brought a Sauvignon Blanc.
Everybody will be happy to know that you declined drinking it out of the bottle.
I can get a straw somewhere or like a funnel or something like that. But yeah, you're so nice to bring that bottle. Well, let's segue before we go back into more events. The wines that you guys produce, you mentioned Merlot at first. You mentioned Sauvignon Blanc. What kind of wines do you make up there?
If you name it, we probably make it. We make Pinot Noir. We actually recently in 2018 purchased a Russian River property, our Rio Este, where we're actually doing Russian River Valley Pinot Noir from there now. We make Zinfandel, which we were very notable for, we make a variety of different Zinfandels, many of which are old vine Zins. And our criteria means that if it's 50 years or older, it's an old vine. We actually have some where the vines and the vineyards are over 100 years.
Wow.
And we at any given time have anywhere from 6 to 8 different Zinfandels. And like I said, the majority of those being old vine. We make Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc. We make a couple white blends with our Marsanne Roussanne, our Cuvée Blanc, which is just released in our tasting room. And one of my favorites is a really great warm weather drinking wine. We make Sangiovese from Sonoma Valley. A little bit softer than maybe its Italian counterpart, but it is a true kind of super Tuscan with a little bit of Cabernet blended in there that gives it some structure. And what else? Malbec we've made, Cab Franc we've made.
Really? So you guys, you did mention the spice rack for that one vineyard.
Yeah.
You guys have a lot of different variety out there.
Yeah, and we have 2 winemakers. And part of the variety, partially the variety has led to the reason why we have 2 winemakers. So Katie Madigan, who has been with us since she started as an intern way back in the early 2000s, she's one of our head winemakers. Katie specializes in a lot of the Burgundian wines, the Zinfandels especially. She has a claim for across the country and beyond. And then she also works with our port, which we're one of the few wineries that can still label our dessert wine as a port because there was a moratorium. Maybe you're not aware.
Did you guys get a letter from Portugal?
We did. I haven't seen the letter. But back in 2008, when Portugal created the restriction about labeling port, we had already been making it many years prior.
Right.
And so we were grandfathered into maintaining the ability to put port on our bottle. And what's unique about our port is it's a 750 milliliter bottle.
Oh.
So when you need that port wine to just be there at the ready,
it's ready, not that 375.
Not that 375. It's that bottle that keeps giving.
And that's a good tip. Port, for people who don't know, is a type of wine that's sweeter, often fortified, so it's a little bit stronger. If they don't have a port, what other magic word can they ask for in the tasting room
of something that's a little bit more fruit driven.
Yeah, and like sweeter.
Well, I avoid the word sweet because sweet's for candy.
Thank you.
When you talk about
what's
wine,
the magic winemaker
it's
word
fruity or fruit-driven or fruit-esque.
Higher residual sugar.
So I mentioned the Cuvée Blanc. That actually has one that has a little bit more of a beautiful floral aromatic with a honeysuckle quality behind it. Pinot Noir lends itself to that kind of fruit hunter, someone that wants less tannin, more of that kind of softer.
Fruit hunter. Oh, yeah. I like that. Good job.
Yeah, it's patented. Hold on,
let
me see if I can find the document for you to sign off on using that. We also have our Cab Franc actually is really lovely because it has a lot of boysenberry notes that come out and does not have that same kind of sharper tannin that you'd expect from it.
And when you say tannin, what does that mean? So people who don't understand that word, what is a tannin?
So tannin is an attribute of wine. When you compare things such as sugars, you compare acidity. Tannin is that element that kind of gets you in the back of that jaw, that adds that little bit of bite to it, where it's not acidic necessarily, but you would get the same thing if you were to bite into the rind of a piece of fruit, where it's a little bit tart, a little bit hard to really pinpoint what's
going on back there, but there's something going on.
But it's a natural component of grapes because grapes have skins, they have seeds, they have all these other elements that in the winemaking process will impart themselves into the wine. And the winemakers use that to their advantage. All of us enjoy our salty snacks and our sweet desserts. Our palates like a range of things, and wine kind of caters to that. It provides those sugars, it provides that acidity, and then the tannin adds that kind of just touch of bitterness or sourness that someone might actually be drawn to.
Which is when in a dish, if you had a dish that's only sweet, it's cloying, it doesn't taste that good.
Yeah, you want to have the spectrum catered to. So you want to have that balance as you just put.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. And I've also heard, just going back, that some wineries will put the word late harvest on some labels if you're looking for a wine that's more, I don't want to say sweet. What's the word I say when I don't say sweet?
You could say fortified, but I would say fruit-driven.
Fruit-driven, especially when they're used to those kind of wines. Or you just want a nice dessert wine, like you mentioned. But I love the 750. I wonder who else does it. That's great. You guys are
we're one of the few.
Outstanding in your field.
It's a little bit tough to get your hands on these days because we do have a special club called the Ruby Allocation that gives you access to that port. We're about to release 2 new vintages of the port in our Ruby Allocation this November. And it's become a speakeasy little specialty. We're releasing very soon our 10-year Tawny Port, which we only make 600 bottles of.
Wow.
When you talk about exclusive, it's probably the most exclusive
wine we make.
Is
that for wine club members mainly?
Only people in the Ruby Allocation have even access to it.
Okay.
We don't even advertise it on the website. You have to know.
Do you want me to edit this out? People. Like we're not even going to talk about it.
No.
This is like Fight
Go
Club.
on our website. You can learn more about the Ruby Allocation and gain access. But we should pivot back to the blessing.
Yeah, go back to the blessing and the animal. And your dog, by the way, has been so good.
He's a good dog.
He's just chilling the whole time.
He's been chill ever since we rescued him. He's like I said, he's a show dog in the sense that he knows when the show's on and he just
he knows what to do.
Stays low and
so take me back to the blessing. What happens during that?
Yeah, so the Blessing the Animal is a community event. Everyone is welcome. Bring the whole family out. Bring the dog out. We've had people bring their cats out on leashes. We've had everything from iguanas, ponies, horses. The Bird Rescue of Sonoma County comes out and brings a lot of their beautiful exotic birds. In years past, Safari West has brought some exotic animals. They are still a strong supporter of us.
Oh, good.
But obviously, with all the dogs around, it's a little stressful for some of those animals.
They brought some animals into the podcast. We had a sloth in here. Sloths are a lot more active than you think because I kept trying to attack the microphone.
more active than my dog, apparently.
Actually, yeah. Maybe your dog's a sloth.
Maybe.
Who knows there? So we were all up there. We've all got our animals. I've got my bearded dragon, and I've got my dog. I have Gus, the dog. And then you guys actually have a blessing.
We actually have, we have some local priests from I don't think it's St. Francis Church, but local priests from just up the road that come down. We set up a little tent. Everybody can get in line with a glass of wine in hand.
Oh, wonderful.
To walk up and get a blessing for their pet.
Okay.
My kids have brought out the school hamster before, and I have actually once seen somebody with a goldfish in a back. And I can't tell if they brought that from home or they just stopped by the pet store.
No, they just got it from a carnival.
Activity.
Some carny, like they threw the ping pong ball.
Exactly.
You win.
I'm going to prolong the life of this goldfish. So we've had an assortment, a menagerie, as it were.
As it were.
And so they can get a blessing, but
Okay.
at the same time, we have different kiosks set up. Again, Humane Society always brings out a little kissing booth so they can introduce them to some of their dogs up for adoption.
Are people able to adopt right there?
Not
or sort
on
of
site.
put dibs on like I want to learn more about this dog.
Not on site, but
Right.
there's a lot of introduction to
That's
their
great.
program, the dogs that they have available,
Okay.
and we've actually probably kicked off a lot of relationships
You probably
from that
have.
event.
Yeah.
Not something that I've tracked.
You're like the speed dating for animals in their homes.
Yeah, and a
Good
little
job.
wine just helps that speed
I'm not.
dating.
I can tell
all
you
the
something.
time.
I'm not. We have failed fostering 3 cats and that dog. We fostered a lot of dogs, and when about 6 months ago, my wife goes, "We should start fostering again." I'm like, "No, it's a menagerie. You end up with so many animals when you foster because you fall in love with them,
Yeah.
and then you're like, we can't possibly live without, whatever the animal."
But they need a
is."
friend, and then they need a friend,
Exactly.
and then the gang needs a leader.
And next thing you know, your home office is full of cat and dog hair, and you can't figure out why the Roomba dies.
Yeah,
just
well,
because
this guy was intentionally adopted because he was hypoallergenic.
Smart
that
man.
that was
Smart
a factor in
man.
our house.
Smart man. All right, so the blessing of the animals. Do people? They don't need to sign up ahead of time.
Don't need to sign up ahead of time. There's some savings. I mean, everything that we do that day is geared towards, again, supporting our local
Right.
animal rescues. It's all donation based. We will sell wine at the event. We will have food vendors at the event. We tend to have some little tidbits of entertainment, like our Winery Dog of the Year contest, where we kind of have a impromptu dog show.
Oh, wow.
People can bring their dog, register their dog. No criteria needed.
This is not the AKC,
No, not
Westminster.
AKC registration. We're not
Any
checking
dog,
papers.
any mutt.
Any dog, any mutt.
Great.
Every year we nominate a Winery Dog of the Year, and there's some prizes in there. But
great.
we've actually gotten to a point where we've segmented it to 3 different categories. We have the cutest dog category,
Yep.
talent show,
Ooh, talent show.
and then costume contest. So we've had some really fun entries over the last couple of years.
And that's what. Once you foster a dog, then you see weird little lobster costumes show up for your dog. And why is my dog wearing a lobster costume?
I'm
right.
just waiting for the little Chucky costume to come in. I've seen it enough online that I'm waiting for it to show up at the dog show.
Happen. And that's in October, so that's the October 6th.
October 6th, first Sunday. Yeah, it's from 2 to 5.
Okay.
And no tickets required, but I was mentioning that you can save some money on raffle tickets because we have amazing raffle prizes. In fact, that's one thing I do want to plug is that a lot of the support comes from local community businesses that have all reached out. And throughout the year, if businesses want to be a part of this, they can reach out to us and contribute experiences, contribute product. All of that is raffled off at the Blessing of the Animals and contributes to the donation that we raise for these charities.
And I click through to the website here. I see a tortoise. I see all sorts of animals. I see a cockatiel. I see, that looks like a very small horse. Actually, a pretty big horse. It looks someone brought a horse.
Oh, yeah. Pony Express, who's our neighbors just down the road, have been for at least 5 years bringing ponies and horses for everybody to pet and say hello to.
I love that. That is so funny. And yeah, you are up by a lot of the horse people, as I call them. I will often see them up in the hills. And Julie Atwood and her halter projects down this road from you. But there are a lot of horse people up there. And I think over in Oakmont, there is a polo ground over there.
There is.
Yeah.
It's tucked away, but
they don't invite me.
I think
gates
are always closed. I've never seen the property.
Maybe because
I'm not 55 yet.
Well, I'll shoot on an old vine. Maybe they should send us the invite care of the podcast studio. That's probably what's happening. They probably couldn't find us for the polo thing. Okay, so that is the Blessing of the Animals. But you guys have more than just that, right?
As far as events,
events. Yeah, I saw you're going down to see Wicked. Is that with your wine club members only, or is
not wine club members only? Actually, we do invite the general public to join us.
Okay.
We have been working with Brightway SF for the last 2 years. The benefit or the partnership is based around supporting our club members and giving them something to do off property while still being a part of the club.
That's great.
So we host a little wine social before certain shows. I think Wicked's running for a good 3 months, but we have October 11th, we're actually hosting a wine social before the October 11th show.
Got it.
If they visit our website and look at that Wicked event, they'll see a coupon code there that'll help them get some discounts on their ticket prices.
Smart.
And then also adds on the ability to join us for that wine social, little charcuterie plate that they can actually take with them into the performance to enjoy the show.
That's a great idea.
So,
not many.
good plug, but that's going to sell out quick. So
so
people have to act
if you
on
want to
that.
be popular, go book. That's a line from the That's all I know. There's this. That's it. I've never seen the show.
That's a good call out.
Do you like that?
My wife and daughter know that show.
Yeah, I saw them perform at a travel show like the Greatest Hits, and that's all I know. So
good for you.
Let's move on to the next thing because
Your
you and I
daughter
have
would
now.
be proud.
We would. I also know jazz hands. I can do that too. I'm at the end of my Broadway knowledge.
I retired my jazz hands.
In November, you guys are doing a thing that says pairings after dark.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
I have
Can we talk
good
about
news
that?
and bad news on that.
Oh, it's not after dark.
So good news is
Yeah.
there are opportunities to enjoy that experience, but with the sun up. The after dark seatings have fully booked
It's
all the way
sold
through
out?
November.
You
It's
sold
that
it out?
popular. Yeah. So the
Wow.
wine and food pairing is the one you alluded to before, where
Right.
we are known and have
Right.
gained acclaim for our wine and food pairing. It's a five course pairing where
Right.
the chef actually pairs the food with the wine, which is the
Right.
way it should be. Not the other way around.
Right.
And he does some amazing pairings that are sometimes obscure, sometimes right where your palate wants to go. Either way, it's a fully immersive social experience, kind
Right.
of a communal seating, as it were,
Out
where the
right
host...
by the vineyard. You're right.
well, you're sitting in our
part of the patio
estate
area?
dining room,
Right.
and you're looking out over the vineyard. You're
Right.
looking out over the lawn you mentioned before. But the pairings after dark were popular just because it's a unique experience to actually enjoy the wine and food pairing where it's nighttime in the vineyards. And you step out afterwards and it will just be peaceful and serene as it is in the Sonoma Valley. Right in harvest when you have a big harvest moon in the sky, most likely.
Wow.
But again, guests can always enjoy the wine and food pairing experience. Same menu, same experience. That is served, I'm going to get this wrong, Thursday through Monday, because Tuesdays and Wednesdays we take a break to make sure that they can pull things in from harvest.
From the farm.
To showcase.
And I'm on the thing right now on your website, which is stfranciswinery.com. You can just click on, I think, experiences and go right to this, and people can book that, which looks amazing. And it's any person can book this.
Well, as long as they're 21 and over.
Touche.
And I will backtrack because there's two culinary experiences that they will find.
Okay.
So the wine and food pairing, which is the indoors dining, 5-course that we just mentioned, does not allow the little furry friends. The estate pairing, which is akin to it, it is actually very similar in the cuisine. It's just served tapas style, and a little bit more private and intimate.
Okay.
Where you have your own table versus a communal table, and is hosted outdoors.
Okay.
And that one is where you can bring your dog to join you. And we actually will provide a tasting for your dog as well. It's usually tap water and treats, not wine.
Right.
But we'll make sure that they're well taken care of. We have little mats for the dogs to lay down and be pampered while you're being pampered.
That's a great deal. Okay. You guys have a lot of stuff going on over there, right?
Always.
Jeez.
Always.
I drive right by. I'm like, I gotta pull in more often and just stop by and do a pairing and a tasting and bring my dog and all that. Right. Tell me, how did you end up in the wine business?
That's a good question. Actually, a longer story than you have time for.
Give me the headline.
It was the most unassuming wine dinner in the world. Sparked an appreciation.
Okay.
Back in college, hanging out with friends, someone said, hey, let's do a wine dinner, which the concept, I grew up in North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
And the concept of a wine dinner was not what you would think of here.
Thing. Okay.
So we were in like a small little A-frame attic space with a 6x4 fold-out table. And everybody brought a bottle of wine, and I hopefully didn't bring Night Train or something from the local gas station, but I definitely did not know wine back then.
Right.
And we had, a good 7 or 8 bottles on the table, sampled all the different wines, talked about them, and it just became a really engaging social evening that left an impression.
Right. I didn't hear about the dinner. Was there food involved too?
There was food involved.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember the food, but I did move into working in the culinary industry for over 25 years.
Oh, you did?
I moved to New York shortly after North Carolina.
Okay.
I worked at Leal, which was related to Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah,
I worked at Nobu, and I got a deep dive into the world of wine in those locations.
Were you front of house there? Or
I was front of house.
Okay,
so
good.
I started off learning French wines,
Okay.
and then transitioned into learning about a lot more wines when I got to Nobu. And at that time, there was quite a few California wines that were their showcase wines.
Really?
While I was there. I'm not going to shout out names because I worked for St. Francis, and St. Francis unfortunately wasn't the
and Nobu
the
was
featured
not
wine then.
Nobu was not advanced enough back then
to know
to
that
be
St.
able
Francis
to use
is
St. Francis.
the product to use.
You know, it's funny, when we used to go to New York, I would go with the wine growers and the vintners, and we do trips in. And of course, we go to the restaurants. And a lot of New York restaurants drink European wine. And it was really, we would move the needle a little bit. But for, in the 80s and 90s, French wines had that sort of prestige behind them, that the really high end ones. And then the newer chefs would come in like, these are wonderful wines that are here in the United States. And California wine's the same quality often as the French or Italian wines. But sometimes it was rowing the boat uphill a little bit.
Yeah,
but
it was definitely, there was a shift. I was in New York early 2000s, and there was actually a lot of focus put on California wines in the restaurants I worked in.
Good.
Even at the French restaurant, there was quite a few California wines that were always the featured wine.
Good.
So
good job, distributors and everybody else. So you worked in the restaurant business, and then what brought you out to California?
My wife.
Oh, smart.
So my wife met me. We bumped into each other in New York.
Okay.
She was actually working in a restaurant across the street from the restaurant I was working
Oh
at.
my gosh.
Kismed.
Hey, you guys were fighting over for like the reservations. Your eyes caught
Drastically
across.
different restaurants, and she was doing it as a part-time where I was full-time at that point.
Right.
But yeah, so she was from Santa Rosa, and
okay.
This is actually a great segue story because she brought me back for my first trip ever to California. I flew into San Francisco, foggy night, couldn't see anything, came over the Golden Gate Bridge, really unimpressive at that point because it was
just
nothing
all
to
gray
see.
fog.
Yeah. She took me up to Santa Rosa where her family was living, introduced me to her parents, and the next day she had an outing planned where she took me out River Road, and we went wine tasting, we went hiking in Armstrong Woods, we went out to the coast, we came back, we got oysters, then we rolled back into the hills of Petaluma, ended back up in Santa Rosa for dinner. I was sold.
You're like,
after that trip, I was moving here, no questions asked. Fortunately, about 6 months later, she kind of hit her limits with New York and was ready to move and said, I'm moving to California. And we had been together for 5 years at this point.
Okay.
And I said, well, I guess I'm going to California.
Oh,
and
great.
it really was not, it's not a hard sell.
Well done.
So yeah, ever since we've been here, I've worked with my friends down at Central Market in Petaluma. A little shout out to Tony down there.
Yeah.
I was a wine buyer for him for a while.
Okay.
And then was over at also a Petaluma shout out over at Adobe Road. Before I ended up at St. Francis back in 2018.
Okay.
Where I've been very happy ever since.
Good. Well, and you mentioned, you name dropped kind of the greatest hits of the Sonoma County area. Going down River Road.
And those weren't even on my talking points. It's so off message right now.
Well, good job to your wife for planning all those sort of things, because that's pretty amazing.
I keep telling her she should work for the tourist bureau.
She should. We'll give her commission. Is she now in the wine business?
She's not. She's a teacher at Santa Rosa Middle School.
Okay.
So she's doing the good work.
Go fighting. What are the Santa Rosa Middle School Panthers? Cougars?
Panthers. There's a large cat. I believe it's Cougars.
Because I think Panthers is the high school. So they're probably the Cougars.
I think
right.
The Cougars.
Okay. Well, and God bless her for doing middle school, because...
And she started in 2020.
Why not?
She
can only go
has done it the right way. It's only getting better.
That's right. Start at the bottom. Right. That's pretty good. All right. Before we move on, because you're going to answer questions pretty soon from visitors. Is there anything else I forgot to ask you about St. Francis Winery that you want to bring up?
What did you forget to ask me?
Can I join the wine club?
You can absolutely join the wine club. We have a versatile wine club. You can customize your selections, and again, with all the different wines we have different wine club options for every single budget, every single consumer.
Okay, let me ask, why do people join a wine club?
Benefits. You have benefits on site where all these experiences we've talked about and touted will be at a discounted rate or complimentary in many cases. We offer complimentary tastings to our club members. And that's not with any restrictions. They could come daily if they wanted to. Some people do.
Some of the Oakmont people walk
Some of the
across.
Oakmont people, visit us on a regular basis and are part of the family. We also do give exclusive access to a lot of our winery exclusive wines only through our club.
Got it.
Whereas guests that visit us may get exclusive access to some wines, the club members get those first dibs and then get that direct line to some of those wines that are really obscure, very, very limited.
And these ones are not available at Safeway, stuff like that.
Correct. What we distribute in the local markets and the fine wine stores around the country are kind of the red foil or gold foil labels that you see, our Cabernet, our Old Vine Zin, our Chardonnay. Exceptional wines, beautiful wines. Actually, my first introduction was the Old Vine Zinfandel before I even worked for St. Francis and was a go-to. Still is. Those are accessible in many national retailers. Whereas what we sell at the winery are vineyard designates, very small lot located wines that are either custom blends or specific varietals from specific blocks of specific vineyards, getting down to that nuanced.
So very specific areas. And then that's, I think, mentioning, again, the Vineyard Adventures, I want to give a shout out to Larry Levine, who listens to this podcast. He helped set those up a long time ago when he was at the Wine Growers. It's a great concept. Honestly, it's like the easiest thing for me to tell people, because people come to wine country, they want to see a vineyard, and they want to be able to get in a vineyard. And a lot of places you can get to a fence and look at a vineyard. And mad props to you guys for saying, "Oh, let's go into it and let's tell our story."
Nothing to hide.
Get a glass of wine in your hand to learn about it, right? Yeah. So that's a neat thing.
Just wear the right shoes is the only plug I'm going to say.
Oh, thank you.
And
I actually do that when I'm talking to people at the visitor center. I look down at their feet. I'm like, "You're going to change your shoes," because I often see very high heels on some people, and those look wonderful on Instagram.
They also help till the soil.
They help till the soil.
Will not. Yeah, keep your ankles very stable when walking on uneven pavement or uneven soil.
Soil, yeah. The ankle doctors are going to send you a thank you note. So wear some flat shoes or shoes you can walk in.
And thank you for shouting out Sonoma Wine Growers, because they definitely
were
the brainchild behind it. Launched this back before my time, actually, back in I think 2015 or 16.
Yeah, Larry had two crazy ideas. One was bonsai grapevines, which I still think is fun. We had these bonsai grapevines, and they would actually, little grapes would grow on them. And the Wine Growers, Sonoma Adventures in the vineyards. So it was fun. And it really tied people into that this is an agricultural product. Because oftentimes, like you brought this awesome Sauvignon Blanc, people just think, oh, wine just appears in bottles. And you're like, to your point about a farm, it starts with the soil and growing and careful manicuring and pruning and training and soil health. It doesn't just happen.
Doesn't just happen, but it is. I mean, but at the same time, it is such a natural thing, and it's such a legacy. Oh yeah. I mean, wine in itself is just part of who we are as human beings.
Absolutely. Well,
it's been around for so long, so many cultures.
You and I could make wine ourselves.
We could.
It wouldn't be good.
It wouldn't be good.
It'd be terrible wine, but we could do it. Tim and Ryan's.
I'll drink yours if you drink mine.
No, I've made wine by accident by leaving some in a bucket before, some grapes, and I'm like, oh, fermented. Yeah. I'm like, this is going to be, I'm going to go blind. It'll be terrible. Don't drink it. But
we juiced some wine grapes at my house a couple years ago for the kids to enjoy, just some fresh grape juice. Wasn't really winning them over.
The trick is fresh juice, squeezed, like when they do it at the Harvest Festival and stuff like that. Drink it there. But yeah, if you try to make wine at home, it's fun, but join the hobbyist group and have people teach you how to do it. And now with YouTube videos, I'm sure there's something on YouTube, right?
Well, if it wasn't Harvest, I'd just ask the winemakers, hey, what are you doing? And I'm sure they would just give you every little step.
Why don't we bring them in right now? I'm sure they got nothing else to go on.
Nothing else to do.
All right, I know that you have to go to another appointment soon, so you're going to help me do something, okay?
Okay.
Now, you know that we get questions from different people. Our visitor centers, we have 2 of them. They call, they ask us, they blah, 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 text. You're going to help me in the thing we call We Get Questions. Here we
gotcha. I have answers, hopefully.
Here we go. Here's one that came in on Facebook. We are coming to Sonoma to celebrate with 3 other couples for a 25th wedding anniversary. Oh, happy anniversary. We are all in our early 50s and looking for good vibes, great winery experiences, food, and restaurant suggestions. This is right up your alley. So come on.
We can check all those boxes in one.
So first of all, you're saying go to St. Francis Winery?
I'm saying make sure that's part of the itinerary.
That's the first one. And the second one. What other restaurants would you suggest or things to do?
Things to do, definitely enjoy the nature.
Okay, good.
Like I mentioned, when I moved here from New York, I was going through nature withdrawal, and we have it in spades here.
Yeah.
And every little microclimate, every little nuanced nature aspect that you want, the fantasy of rolling green hills to the redwoods to the beach, take advantage of that.
Right.
As much as I want to say, just come enjoy wineries, just come and enjoy St. Francis.
Right.
And enjoy a couple other wineries up and down Sonoma Valley. But make sure that you get out and enjoy some of the nature aspects as well.
Good.
Make it out to the coast, make it out to the redwoods and see all of that.
Right.
As far as restaurants, I don't really
this is like
know
asking
who
which
to
children
call
you love
out
the most,
because I don't
right?
want to scorn anybody.
Well, how about this? What restaurants have you recently gone to? We're not saying that you're a favorite.
Okay,
but
fair enough.
Ones that you had a good time at.
Fair enough. Family always enjoys sea tie.
Okay, good.
So we definitely make it up to sea tie quite a bit. We're always a fan of Stark's restaurants, but my southern roots have always brought me up to Sweet Tea up in Windsor.
Really?
They used to be closer to us over in Fountain Grove and moved up to Windsor after the things we will not discuss.
Right.
But so those are all family favorites.
Sweet Tea is great, and it's funny. It is up in Windsor next to Safeway. And so I live up there. And that's a good spot. Full bar, really nice. And I'm glad to hear that it gets the North Carolina stamp of approval.
It does. Not many people will serve sweet tea proper around here. They'll give me a black tea that they just poured over ice. And
so that is a weird thing when I went and had actually iced tea in the South. And I'm like, what the hell? It's just very sugary.
It's very sugary.
And then I'm like,
it's not healthy.
I didn't ask for this. Like, no, this is how it comes down here.
Fortunately, where I grew up, there was a lot of fluoride in the water, so it countered the iced tea.
Fluoride worked out.
Yeah.
All right, so sweet tea. What about if you mentioned Stark's? They have a lot of great restaurants. Bird in the Bottle in Santa Rosa. They have the steak place. They have a ton of them.
They have
Aunties.
everything. They have
Tapas in
the name
Healdsburg,
wrong.
Bravas in
Jewish deli
Healdsburg.
now, and
Oh, Mrs. Grossman's is so
Grossman's,
good.
thank you.
That's a great one. Yeah, especially right by the SMART train station in downtown Santa Rosa. I would also advise this group. Let's see if there's 3 other couples. So it's 4, so 8 people total. Good places for groups for special meals in the town of Sonoma. Girl in the Fig is a classic. El Dorado Kitchen's a classic. Valley is a good one, which is in the back. And then if you go to Salt and Stone,
I was thinking Salt and Stone myself because they have a beautiful patio outside, surrounded by vineyards. I will say they make a really good old fashioned there.
Really?
Yeah. So
I gotta try that.
Just to plug a cocktail.
You may not know this.
But have a glass of wine secondary.
Start with the old fashioned, work to the wine for dinner. No, I love old fashions. I didn't know that. Okay, I'll try that. Good answer. Here's another one we got. I heard that there may be mountain lions in Sonoma Valley. Is this true, and can I see one?
Yes, it's true. I'm a weekly mountain biker over in Annandale, which is one of our state parks right across from where the winery is. I've seen remnants of what the mountain lions may have caught the day before. Haven't seen the mountain lions yet, but we have a local nonprofit that actually has been at the Blessing of the Animals before, Living with Lions, that monitors all of our local mountain lions and their traversing because they have such large regions that they make their territory. But we don't typically see them. We've had a couple instances pop up in our local media over the last 5 years where we had some young mountain lions wander into downtown. I don't know if you recall that.
Yes,
down in Santa Rosa.
Yes.
And there's probably more sightings here on the Sonoma side.
Right.
As you get outside the city limits, where they're a little bit more common. We don't have the same amount of livestock that they have in Petaluma, so they're not as visible here.
Right.
They tend to stay away from where the humans are hiking and biking.
I've been told that
solitude.
By the time you see a mountain lion, you don't want to see that mountain lion.
Yeah, I've been told that you don't ever see the mountain lion. It sees you.
Exactly.
And if you see it, it's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing. Yeah. So if you do see it and they get big, get menacing. But yes, there are mountain lions here, definitely above St. Francis Winery in the hills. And Hood Mountain, I know for a fact they're there. I know that there's been trail cams and even bears.
We've got black bear, lots of coyotes these days.
A lot of coyotes.
Baron wandering around the winery with me. I've been given the warning lately, like, if you're here in the early evening, then make sure Baron's being carried or held. Keep
them nearby because coyotes do like to eat smaller animals like cats and small fluffy white dogs whose names start with B. Little known fact. Okay, another one we just got. Hey, we're looking for good places to watch football. Any ideas if they're visiting?
That's a really
good place to watch
question.
Some football games.
Sadly, I haven't been able to watch football in many years. I did catch the recent 49ers versus Raiders game, which was fun.
Yeah.
We'll see how the season goes.
The Las Vegas Raiders, the Traitors. I'm sorry, is that what you said out loud? Ouch.
Someone's not going to be happy about that one. We have, in the past, gone over to Legends over at the golf course in Santa Rosa, and then Ricardo's Bar.
Oh my gosh, Ricardo's! What a callback!
Yeah, they're probably appreciating the shout out. I was there just a couple nights ago, but they have their TV set up, nice, casual, kind of makes you displace yourself from being anywhere.
Right.
And you step in, and time disappears, location disappears, and you just get to enjoy a beer and good community.
That is a good spot. All right, good. Up there in Santa Rosa, Ricardo's and Legends, to the golf course, the Bennett Valley Golf Course, I think it is.
Valley, yeah.
I'm going to think also maybe in Kenwood, Palooza has
Palooza has a
good places there. And then in Glen Ellen, of course, the Jack London Saloon it's a good bar, and they have some stuff there. And then in town of Sonoma, you could probably hit Steiner's and the town square, not the town plaza. The plaza itself is the park, but the town square is the name of the bar, which is on the plaza, and is very similar to Ricky's, and it's got that kind of that feel for it. So here's one we got. People planting. And you're from North Carolina, so you probably had this too. Leaves change colors in the mountains, right up in North Carolina. Here, it's in the grapevines.
In the grapevines.
And when are they most colorful?
Certainly October. So kind of giving a bearing of where we are with harvest this year. It was a warmer year than we've had previous. Harvest is actually kind of landing in the average harvest season, where the last 5 or 6 years has been a later and later harvest, and then a really early harvest.
Very early, yeah.
1 year.
Yeah.
It was that last year, the year before.
Yeah.
That was very early. But we're kind of landing back into that Goldilocks framework of harvest. So we'll be wrapping up near October, and that's usually where you start to see those color changes.
Right.
And to dispel the myth versus the reality, you can expect some yellow leaves. You might see some red leaves, but desirably, you don't see too many red leaves.
From a wine grower point of view, red leaves are not good.
Red leaves indicate there's some type of disease or sickness.
Right.
But the beauty of agriculture is you can replant.
Right.
And many wineries do. We've had great success, obviously, here in Sonoma County with keeping our vines healthy and thriving. But I will say that red accent adds some beautiful contrast for your photography.
It does look good in the photos.
And it's great for coming out and seeing the color changes.
And there's other trees that turn colors as well up here, and we do tend to your point, we tend to lag a little bit behind the rest of, the northern climes, which are September, October, and then by November they're done. Here it's October, November, sometimes even December, depending on the trees. And our trees don't really lose their leaves until December, depending on the type of tree it is. So it is kind of nice that the grapevines look beautiful. They start to turn that yellowy, and it's a golden yellow. I mean, when you drive up the valley, I look to you guys, especially if the sun is setting to the east or the west, and you guys are on the east. It is glowing, and it is beautiful. So
one thing I will say that September, because this is the month that my wife and I got married, is the time of year where everything is brilliant green. The vines and vineyards are just ripening, and so everything's just that brilliant color.
Absolutely.
Even though you might see some of the yellow grass in between before you get out to the coast, the vineyards are just glowing red.
They're beautiful. And the hills turn golden, and they kind of reflect the sun at that time. And then, of course, as you mentioned, the redwoods, when you get out to the coast, they're green all the time, except the wood, because it's red. That's why they call it a redwood. This has been Trees with Tim. Ryan, I know you've got to go soon, but is there anything else that you want to tell me about St. Francis? You mentioned the harvest is doing great.
Harvest is doing great.
If people want like the updates and stuff like that, I'm sure you guys have updates on social media and through
we do.
People can
follow us
sign
at
up for
St.
emails.
Francis Winery. Visit the website at stfranciswinery.com. Everything we talked about is covered there, from our events to our experiences. I will say that we do certainly accommodate walk-ins.
Oh, great.
We recommend having a reservation because we're still seeing a lot of people visit us. And as you mentioned, we have Oakmont across the street, so we have a lot of regulars that come in. But if you are looking to get out and visit us, please don't hesitate. We don't want to deter anybody from coming out to experience what we like to call the authenticity of Sonoma. And that really authentic Sonoma lifestyle of everything from food, wine, breathtaking views, a little adventure. It's all right there.
It's all right there. All right. So after you go to stfranciswinery.com and you've already joined the wine club, you've made a reservation, you're going to do one of the food and wine experiences. After you've done that, go to sonomavalley.com to continue your adventure to find deals, special offers, and events. Ryan, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you, Tim.
And most importantly, thank you to your dog.
Is he sleeping?
He looks like...
I'm not sure if my dog is dead in my arms or sleeping. I can't see his eyes.
He looks like he's asleep, and he's very comfortable. So, sorry, he's awake.
Are you just waking up?
There he is.
Sorry, buddy.
All right.
Well, back to sleep.
Thank you very much for coming, and we'll see you all next week.